6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy engaged in an epic battle known as the Battle of Midway. Japan's aspirations of neutralizing the United States as a naval force were thwarted by the U.S. Navy's resounding victory in the air-sea combat, June 3 to 6, 1942, and thus significantly changed the course of World War II in the Pacific. The U.S. fleet drove back a Japanese invasion force en route to New Guinea in the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, putting an end to Japan's attempts to establish a definite naval and air superiority in the Western Pacific. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Imperial Japanese Navy, remained confident in his forces' numerical advantage over the Americans despite the defeat. Yamamoto decided to track down and destroy the rest of the American Pacific Fleet with a surprise attack targeted at the Allied base at Midway Island in an effort to repeat the success of the Pearl Harbor attack. Nearly directly between the United States and Japan in the Pacific Ocean is where you'll find Midway. Yamamoto prepared a three-pronged attack on Midway, following a distraction attack by a smaller Japanese force on the Aleutian Islands off the coast of Alaska. First, Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo's four first-line Japanese aircraft carriers, the Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu, began an aerial assault on the island. Second, a naval and military invasion force, under the command of Vice Admiral Nobutake Kondo. Finally, a coordinated attack by Nagumo's forces and Yamamoto's own navy, which would be waiting 600 miles to the west, would be launched after anticipated American reinforcements from Pearl Harbor arrived. Did you realize? The islands were assaulted on December 7, 1941, less than 2 hours after Pearl Harbor, 6 months before the Battle of Midway. Early in 1942, U.S. Navy cryptanalysts started deciphering Japanese communication codes, and they were able to learn several weeks in advance that Japan was preparing an attack in the Pacific at a place they designated as AF. The Navy made the decision to fabricate a communication from the base claiming it was short on fresh water because they suspected it was Midway. Soon later, Japan's radio operators broadcast a similar warning concerning AF, revealing the attack's intended target. Yamamoto had to communicate every tactical decision over the radio due to the dispersed nature of Japan's fleet, which allowed Navy cryptanalysts stationed in Hawaii to determine when Japan planned to attack, June 4 or 5, and the planned order of battle for the Imperial Japanese Navy. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, could create a strategy to stop the invasion with the help of this information. The American aircraft carrier Yorktown, which was damaged during the Battle of the Coral Sea, was believed by the Japanese to be unavailable at Midway. The damaged carrier was actually repaired at the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard in just 2 days, and it departed on May 30th to reassemble with other American ships near Midway in anticipation of Japan's attack. American B-17 Flying Fortress bombers attacked Kondo's invasion force after the Japanese distraction attack on the Aleutian Islands on June 3, believing it to be the main Japanese fleet. The Battle of Midway's opening military action took place during this disastrous attempt. More B-17s departed Midway before dawn the following day for a further, fruitless attack on the Japanese invasion force. 108 Japanese warplanes from the 4 Japanese aircraft carriers were sent to assault Midway as Nagumo launched the initial phase of Japan's attack in accordance with plan. The initial Japanese assault, which severely damaged the American base, was over by 7 in the morning, leaving the airfield still usable and the American anti-aircraft defenses still in operation. Soon after that, U.S. planes launched from Midway started hitting the 4 Japanese carriers, although without effect, just as his pilots were telling Nagumo that another bombing against the base would be required. A Japanese scout plane sighted parts of the American fleet, including the USS Yorktown, to the east of Midway as Nagumo was rearming Japanese aircraft for a second airstrike. Nagumo changed his strategy and instructed the remaining Japanese aircraft to get ready to attack the American ships once the remainder of them arrived from Midway. However, a flurry of Americans assaulting the Japanese ships were Devastator torpedo bombers from the American carriers Hornet and Enterprise. Nearly all of them, who were not accompanied by fighter aircraft, were taken out by Japanese Zero fighters. However, a second wave of American carrier-launched bombers struck, striking 3 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, and setting them on fire approximately an hour later, while the Japanese refueled and rearmed their aircraft. In response, the Yorktown, which had to be abandoned but was still floating, was attacked twice by Japan's remaining carrier, Hiryu. The Hiryu was also attacked by American dive bombers from all 3 carriers, who then set it ablaze. This destroyed all 4 Japanese carriers. Although the main fighting in the Battle of Midway had ended by the evening of June 4th, American soldiers continued to battle the Japanese throughout the following 2 days while they were at sea and on Midway Island. During salvage operations, the destroyer USS Hammond protected the crippled carrier Yorktown, but on June 6th, a Japanese submarine arrived and fired 4 torpedoes, striking both American ships. The Yorktown eventually overturned and sank the following day, while the Hammond sank in a matter of minutes. The Battle of Midway came to an end on June 6th, after Yamamoto ordered his ships to evacuate. Overall, Japan had suffered losses of up to 3,000 men, including over 200 of their most experienced pilots, nearly 300 aircraft, 1 heavy cruiser, and 4 aircraft carriers, while the Americans had suffered losses of the Yorktown and Hammond, along with about 145 aircraft and about 360 service members. The fight pumped U.S. forces with confidence and sapped Japanese morale, changing the tide of war in the Pacific significantly in favor of the Allies and forcing Japan to abandon its goal to expand its reach in the Pacific, and would remain on the defensive for the balance of World War II. Through the skill and devotion to duty of their armed forces of all branches in the Midway area, our citizens can now rejoice that a momentous victory is in the making. Even against the greatest of odds, There is something in the human spirit, a magic blend of skill, faith, and valor that can lift men from certain defeat to incredible victory. Mankind is poised midway between the gods and the beasts. There is a story, no doubt apocryphal, that gamers at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, have many times replayed the 1942 Battle of Midway, but have never been able to produce an American victory. After the Battle of Midway, there was a week in a rest camp at Pearl Harbor. The economic game is not supposed to be rigged like some shady ring toss on a carnival midway. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. A ship is always referred to as she because it costs so much to keep one in paint and powder. Is the proposed operation likely to succeed? What might the consequences of failure? Is it in the realm of practicability in terms of material and supplies? God grant me the courage not to give up what I think is right, even though I think it is hopeless. It is the function of the Navy to carry the war to the enemy so that it is not fought on U.S. soil. That is not to say that we can relax our readiness to defend ourselves. Our armament must be adequate to the needs, but our faith is not primarily in these machines of defense, but in ourselves. Some of the best advice I've had comes from junior officers and enlisted men. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.